This episode really furthered my hatred of the Anthony Ainley Master.
Yeah. I could see that.
Especially after Time Flight. Like, Time Flight was already, bad enough with the completely ridiculous over-the-top disguises and whatnot. And then this just... I mean, at the end of the episode, as the TARDIS dematerializes, he's, like, shaking his fist and says, "You medieval misfits!"
I think I missed that. Oh, man.
I think that's one of the... it's probably one of the most, like, banal cliche things that anyone could ever say at that point. And there's no reason for the Master to say that.
Right. Especially because he himself... I mean, like, way to be hypocritical. I mean, he's a total misfit, too. I mean, he's trying to conquer the whole damn thing. That's not fitting in.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is the Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things. I'm not mistaken, this was only 2 episodes long.
Why, did you feel like you missed something?
No.
Did you feel like you missed important developments? Or?
No, I didn't, and that's part of what worried me, is I was expecting more, but then it just ended, and I didn't know.
Well, there just isn't any more. I mean, there are these Peter Davison two-parters that for some kind of weird budgetary reason or something, but...
Well, I kind of liked it, I kind of liked having the short little burst of Peter Davison.
Well, did you like the story?
It's funny because I did, but I liked it because of how strange it was.
Okay. See, I didn't like it at all.
Oh,
even
okay.
A little. But I'm curious to know what you liked about it, or what you found strange about it.
Well, I don't know. It was like this bizarre little detour that, the Doctor just happened to spend like an afternoon or something, solving. It was so weird, and so little of it made sense. Something about it just really struck me as being like, hey, I really like this. I guess I liked it for how different it was.
Now, this was the epic season finale.
Oh, wait, was it?
Yes.
Oh. Wow. All right.
Well, I mean, it was kind of, there was, after this, there was the, the 90-minute special, which was the Five Doctors. This led into the Five Doctors. Because at the end, they talk about how they want to go to the Eye of Orion.
Oh, yeah.
Which is where they're hanging out at the beginning of the Five Doctors. But that was later on. So this was the end of the proper season.
So, wow. Well, see, with that context, now I'm not so sure. Because, I still like it on its own merits. But, even I don't really understand why I like this. But, that is kind of strange. Because it's not like it's... I don't know. I'm so used to, modern TV where it's, it's built up to be... Where the season finale is always this big showdown or something. And, it's supposed to, wrap up these crazy arcs that have been building and, culminating in this one confrontation or something. And that's not at all what this... the Master's here. But, beyond a quick, oh, how did you escape from last time? There's really not, there's no big stakes. It's the Doctor just kind of shows up. And he's like, well, this is weird. And then, proceeds to... get involved, but it's just a normal Doctor Who story. I would have never known that this was a finale of any sort. So that's just weird. But no, I don't know. I don't think that this was a very good story, but it just seems like such a great, I don't know, like a palate cleanser almost. It's just the right notes of bizarre and just meaningless. Just meaningless advancement of something that almost resembles a plot, but not really.
Yeah, it's I guess there's kind of a plot.
Not really.
I think I might like it more if I had in the back of my mind that we've got this great new character, Chameleon, who's gonna, he's really gonna change things next season. He's gonna really freshen up the show. I mean, we finally got rid of Nissa, but now we've got a bold new direction with this new companion, Chameleon. And that never really came to fruition in quite the way that I think they were expecting.
Well, it's so bizarre how basically it just ends with the Doctor kind of kidnapping Chameleon and then like afterwards making sure it was okay, I guess, like, hey, you want to travel with us, right? And like, yeah, sure. And that's like his solution, is to just kidnap Chameleon and go away in the TARDIS. And I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, the Master's just still there. Like, he's not like stopped or, trapped or, imprisoned or anything. He's just there, and he's still got his TARDIS, and he can still cause all sorts of mayhem even without Chameleon. I mean, like, he can't do whatever weird scheme he was trying to do. Which, I mean, I guess he was trying to, like, destabilize, like to get the king overthrown by, I don't know, sowing disorder or something.
I think he was trying to ruin the king's reputation.
Right.
I don't know why.
Well, right, he doesn't, it's never clear, like, why he wants. I mean, I'm assuming it's so he can ascend to the throne somehow. But...
Well, I mean, he says that he's going to be the emperor of the universe or something, somehow. He's like, well, you left me on the planet, I think Zarafin is the name of it, which is where we last saw him in Time Flight.
Right.
And he says, well, I found this robot lying around, and using his power, I shall become the master of everything. And then it's very unclear to me why he was... I mean, okay, we harp on this a lot, but, like, he's in disguise at the beginning.
Yeah.
Among strangers.
Right.
Using a very strange voice. By the way, did you immediately recognize that it was him?
I did, because he did sound familiar, and I did remember seeing the Master on, like, the DVD cover or whatever. So, I did know he was in it, and I could sort of tell that was his voice. Which kind of made it sort of funny, because I was just waiting for him to, finally reveal himself.
And when he eventually does, it's for no reason.
Right.
During the fight with the Doctor, or just after the fight,
yeah,
like, just for no reason at all, he just transforms back into himself.
Well, he gets out his tissue compression eliminator or whatever, and at that point, I guess the Doctor could figure it all out anyway, so he figures why not. But I mean, like, I don't know why he felt the need to show that at that point. I mean, like, yeah, he was defeated, but it's not like the Doctor's going to kill him or anything. He probably could have done a better job if he had, kept his identity a secret and sort of schemed just like from the sidelines or something, so he's not in direct confrontation with the Doctor. But, whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, even after he confronts the Doctor, I mean, there's no reason for him to suddenly reveal to all other strangers present he has a different hair color than you thought he had.
Well, right, and on top of that, the Chameleon masquerading as the king constantly refers to the Doctor and his companions as demons, but so I guess all the other subjects or whatever, they don't really trust them. But at the same time, this dude just like transformed in front of your face, and they were completely okay with like accepting the Master's explanation, like, oh yeah, the Doctor is evil and he's trying to depose the king, and oh, you got to stop him. And I just don't get it. Surely they would not trust this shape-shifting dude. Well, I like that final scene where, like, it's revealed that, Chameleon is controlled by psychic power or whatever. And, at that point, the Doctor gets into, like, this will battle with the Master where, like, they're both trying to control Chameleon. And this is represented on screen as these jump cuts that cut between the Doctor's face and the Master's face. And it starts accelerating, and it's going faster and faster, and and then ultimately Chameleon turns into Tegan, and that's like supposed to be the victory. I thought that was great. It was so ridiculous. I couldn't help but just love it.
I could.
I don't know. I just thought it was really, because at that point I was beyond wanting any sort of sensible ending. I loved that. This whole thing was just kind of weird, because it was just, there was this non-plot of the Master trying to conquer the universe somehow through some means, and it's solved by this sort of weird, just, the Doctor pushing Chameleon into the TARDIS and then like dematerializing. And it's so weird. Somehow it just like made logical sense to me. Like the whole thing it just seemed right. Like it wasn't good, but it was right.
I suppose I can give it that.
Like, if it had this terrible premise that was solved beautifully, then I'd be a little weirded out. But it's this weird sort of premise that doesn't really make sense, and then solved in this weird sort of way that I guess makes sense. But it's just all very strange. It really it followed through is the thing. It followed all the way through.
What did you think of Tegan and Turlo?
They were companions.
They didn't do very much, did they?
No, they really didn't. I mean, I did think it was a little bit funny how the Doctor showed zero concern for Turlo's well-being, and Tegan's like, "Well, what about Turlo?" And the Doctor's just like, "He's probably fine. He'll turn up." And meanwhile, Turlo's being tortured.
Well, this is not long after Turlo's attempts to murder him.
So the Doctor was just like getting a little payback.
Yeah, I think so.
Just a little like passive aggressive kind of, you're probably doing fine, right? Right, Turlo? You don't need any help. Well, I can see that. It just seems kind of funny. But yeah, no, I can't think of really anything that they did that advanced the plot in any meaningful way. I mean, they were captured.
Oh yeah, that does tend to happen when you're a companion.
Yeah, it really does. I like how the episode kind of starts where it spends its sweet time getting the Doctor to arrive, and I kind of like when they do that because I like them sort of setting things up, and then you sort of like wonder like how is this Doctor Who? Where is the titular character? And then all of a sudden the TARDIS materializes in an inopportune place, and I like that. And I also like how historically minded it is, like because the Doctor spends a good chunk of time saying, well, this isn't right, this isn't what history says happened, and it just and something about it just sort of reminded me of a lot of like the stuff that like the 10th Doctor would do. And I mean, like I always get reminded of the new series when I'm watching the classic series for whatever backwards reason, but I don't know, it's
probably because you saw the new series first.
Probably. But and I feel like that's okay in a show about time travel. I feel like I'm okay to be reminded of the future. But it reminded me a lot of like the 10th Doctor and episodes where he would encounter stuff that was historically inaccurate and become obsessed with them. And so that kind of evoked that for me.
How did you like the song, the music? They sing a little song.
They do sing a little song. I was very confused by that because I was worried this was turning into another musical episode. But yeah, I don't know. I remember hearing the lyrics.
Well, it's all about murdering and killing.
Right. That's what I got the gist of it. I don't know. I have to say I don't think I don't think I was a fan of that particular song. It seemed just bizarre to me for like, and I mean I realize this is not a real king, but it just seemed like weird that a king would be like, I'll play a song for everybody. Like, and just that was kind of bizarre.
I wonder if kings ever do.
I thought they were too busy like being royal to like learn an instrument. Because it's not like I don't know. It's not like you're like a president or a prime minister where like you had a job before you became a politician, or you had hobbies before you became a politician. But you were born to be a king.
I think if I were a king and I had skill like that, because I mean he did a decent job with it.
Oh yeah.
If I were a king and I had skill with that, I'd always be like, all right, hold up everyone, I'm gonna play a tune, and then I'd do a little song, and there everyone would have to like clap and.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but isn't that like kind of the sort of paradox? Like you'd never know if you were good.
I wouldn't need to know. I'd be the king.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Didn't they look? I don't know. Didn't they look down on people with who played instruments and whatnot?
Yeah, maybe they did. Maybe I guess that's probably true.
Yeah, I mean, you could be like a really controversial king where you're like, yeah, I'm. It's like I don't know, like the Pope Francis of kings, where you just like, well, yeah, I'll pick up this instrument and strum on it for a while. I don't give a shit. And that's like
play Wonderwall.
Exactly. If only Chameleon had stuck around and was just would just like sing songs and stuff. That'd be pretty awesome. There are no more chameleon stories except for Planet of Fire. After this is just it for the longest time, and then he's gone again. It's so weird that this is supposed to be his introduction or its introduction, and it's just not anything really.
It is pretty weird.
But I don't know. I just gotta say, in spite of all this weirdness, there was something about it. I mean, and maybe it was because of the weirdness that I really liked it.
It was too slight, and there wasn't much to it, and all the other characters were kind of dull. I mean, the only character who was kind of interesting was the king himself, I thought, because I mean, when the TARDIS first materializes, and the king just kind of like, just some demons. Like, he doesn't seem to be that odd or anything. So when that first happens, it's kind of intriguing, and you really want to know what happens. But then he turns out to be this really boring robot. I also think like the robot is stupid looking.
I'm not going to argue with you on that because he's really kind of creepy though. And like, I mean, this is supposed to be, well, I mean, kind of like supposed to be a children's show, and you got this like creepy ass robot.
I think they spent a lot of money, and they thought it was really going to work out, and this is going to be a major character. Which, I mean, it was kind of dumb of them after like how much trouble they had with K9.
Yeah,
like how much trouble they had like putting K9, like attaching K9 to a wire and dragging him across a soundstage. Like, right. And they honestly thought this is gonna be something really different, but turns out not to have been.
Yeah, I mean, what was their plan? I mean, it is kind of neat that he can shapeshift into whatever you want. That's probably handy. And yet, at the same time, I kind of wish that the current production team would at least get just a fraction of the the boldness of this production team, that they were like, you know what, we're gonna have a shapeshifting android being a companion, and because would it just anything other than a modern day Earth teenager or 20-something, like that would be great from London.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, because you had K9 and you had Chameleon, and there had never really been. I mean, the new series has never even bothered to try like introducing a new sort of ongoing sci-fi concept into the show.
Right.
Like it's been like the TARDIS, the sonic screwdriver, the Doctor, and it hasn't it hasn't introduced anything as bold as Chameleon. And I think I'd probably use as the more successful example of that, I'd use K9.
Yeah.
But I think Chameleon was definitely an attempt to sort of recapture that sort of ingenuity, but it just crashed and burned pretty horrifically.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like even just having them, being willing to attempt it. Like, I mean, yeah, it failed fantastically, but it made it all the way through production to the final product, and it was terrible, but at least they stuck with it, and they were convinced of themselves that it could work. I just feel like the production team could just benefit from just a tiny bit of that hubris, and just kind of be able to, or just be willing to take risks like that, and I mean, obviously it didn't pan out here, so not a great example, but yeah, like with K9, same kind of thing, would it kill them to try something like that?
It's kind of interesting. Like Russell T Davies recently gave an interview where he sort of talked about how he was watching The Web of Fear, which is one of the two Patrick Troughton stories that was recently recovered, and he was looking at it, and he was looking at some of the concepts in it, and he was like, on the one hand, I really love this, but on the other hand, this would never have made it through the first 10 minutes of a script meeting between me and a writer. Like, I'd try to talk them out of it and talk them into doing something a little different and getting rid of some of this and making it simpler and not bringing in all these really weird concepts, but it's much better for having had all the weird concepts. And so he was sort of musing that maybe they sort of strangle the creativity out of certain things, which might well be true. I mean, I love New Who a lot, obviously, but I think it's possible that they sort of they're less willing to go with a completely bonkers idea.
Yeah, and I'd like to see at least a small return to that, and I mean, they do stuff, they do some interesting stuff, but I mean, Yeah, if only it could be. I guess I would like it to be bonkers.
So what's your pitch?
I don't know. But bring back Chameleon.
Get this. A talking cabbage.
There you go. I think that's it. I think you've struck gold.
Animatronic talking cabbage. Made by the Jim Henson Workshop.
Maybe give it like psychic powers too. You never know.
Ooh, wow.
Just a little bit, every now and again, when they need, like the sonic screwdriver's failing, and the doctor doesn't know what to do, and talking cabbage whips out his psychic powers.
It's kind of the opposite of what Chameleon has. Chameleon has the opposite of psychic powers. He has like psychic vulnerabilities.
Right, like, yeah. He's like a psychic receiver. It's like the little label on like, remote control cars from the FCC saying that it must comply with any interference it receives, and must not cause desired operation or whatever. So it's like that. He's probably Chameleon probably had to go through some sort of FCC, but like the psychic equivalent of the FCC.
Probably.
Yeah, this is probably not like by design. It just like it so happens that he receives psychic interference and he must comply with it. It just kind of sucks to be Chameleon.
It really does. Big Finish hasn't done very much with Chameleon.
Implying that they've done something?
There's a little bit.
Oh, okay. Like what?
There's an audio called Circular Time, and it features like all of these little mini stories, one of which is happening while the Fifth Doctor is regenerating into the Sixth Doctor, and like the Master tries to like prevent him from regenerating by exploiting the mental link that the Fifth Doctor had with Chameleon, or something like that.
That's interesting.
But the little remnant of Chameleon sort of joins with the Doctor and saves the day or something. This is my vague recollection.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. Well, I was gonna say, how can you, or being a shape-shifting robot doesn't really lend itself well to audio, I think.
Or maybe it lends itself wonderfully to audio.
Oh yeah, there you go. Because they can just describe what Chameleon looks like now. They don't have to, hire a bunch of actors or whatever.
There is another shape-shifting companion.
Oh right, Frobisher.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Well, and I vaguely remember this. He's typically like a penguin, though, right?
He chooses to be a penguin.
He chooses to be. Okay, yeah, there you go.
That's his default form.
That's kind of awesome. Wait, so who is Frobisher a companion of?
I know he appeared alongside the Sixth Doctor, and I think maybe also the Seventh in comics, and he has a couple of audio plays with the Sixth Doctor, one of which is incredibly good.
Yeah, see, this is the kind of thing that, nowadays I think we could, like with CG and stuff, I feel like they could bring Frobisher to the screen. And
I hope and pray constantly.
And obviously if the CG budget gets constrained, he could take a different form or something, and that'd be perfectly reasonable. Just get like a human actor. You could even make it just some extra or something, and have it swap out every few scenes. This is the kind of stuff that I would like to see in Doctor Who, and if only the production team would make it so.
Yeah, I would rather see Frobisher than Chameleon.
Does Frobisher have more of a personality?
He has a lot more personality. He kind of has like a wisecracking New Yorker kind of personality.
That sounds awesome. See, this is exactly what I want in Doctor Who.
Well, it's there for you if you want it.
I guess so.
If you want to go read those comics or listen to those audios.
I think that might be worth my time. So is Tegan able to fly the TARDIS?
Yeah, she certainly seems to be able to do so here.
Right. So did she ever? Because I feel like wasn't that something in Castrovalva where like it was implied she could, but then turned out she couldn't. That it was.
Maybe it's the same thing again.
Maybe it was still Adric. Adric's just with them in spirit.
Adric's ghost.
Adric's ghost. Maybe that's a way to explain all the weird things the TARDIS does. Obviously beyond it being sentient. Any strange quirks that happen to the TARDIS anytime it goes off course or is pulled to land in a certain place. You know, that's the ghost of Adric haunting haunting the TARDIS.
The Doctor's wife gave us one possible explanation for all that stuff, but I think I like this better.
Right. It's just the ghost of Adric. So does that mean he does know that he was right? That he was right?
We'll never know if he knows whether he was right.
I did make a note of the Doctor being knighted here, which I guess doesn't really count because it was.
No, it doesn't.
So not like in Tooth and Claw where it totally counts.
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it does. It really happens in Tooth and Claw.
Right. And then he was subsequently banished or whatever. It's kind of a mixed bag.
You win some, you lose some.
Exactly.
Hey, Lewis, do you think we should pick a random story to be watched after the King's Demons?
I sure do.
All right, then let's set about doing that. All right, the random selector. No, not the spell check. The random selector is being activated. It is going through its. What? No. It's a random selector, not the everything in order selector. Right.
That'll be really useful when we want to watch all of Doctor Who in order, though.
Yeah. All right. The random selector is selecting at random. It is going through its magical processes. It is using its truly random, fake random thing. And it has selected Frontier in Space.
Ooh.
Not to be confused with Colony in Space.
Right.
Which we have already watched.
Right. I remember you making sure that I did not confuse those two before. And now I have to be extra sure I don't confuse them.
So an interesting thing about Frontier in Space, it leads directly into Planet of the Daleks.
Ooh.
Which we already watched.
Yeah. How about that? Well, that's convenient, I guess.
Well, ish.
I guess it would have been more convenient to, watch it first.
Yeah, probably. Well, Planet of the Daleks opens with the Doctor injured.
Oh, that's right.
And we discussed at the time the fact that, nothing is really explained about why that is. So you're going to find out.
Oh, good. So this was... So yeah, it's kind of like a flashback then.
Yes. And you also happen to know how this story is going to end because it's going to end leading into Planet of the Daleks.
That's true. So I know that both the Doctor and Joe survive. Wait, hang on. Does that mean that this story involves the Master?
It does.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because he mentions the Master.
He did indeed mention the Master.
Okay. I wasn't misremembering that then.
No, you were not.
Ooh, I'm actually excited because I really like what I've seen of the Roger Delgado Master. And so
yeah, and he once again appears here. I think this might actually be his last appearance.
Ah.
We can talk about that when it happens, though.
Yeah, best to save that.